God promising us life is not like an insurance policy. It's not something that we have to wait until we die to pay off. Now, stay with me. I know that a lot of us, are anxiously awaiting to go to heaven. Matter of fact, your whole life has been built around, I'm going to go to heaven. I'm going to go to heaven, and I'm just going to wait here because I'm going to go to heaven. One day, I'm going to heaven. And in the meantime, you're missing life. God has come to give us whole life right now, not life that's going to pay off when you go to heaven. Yes, we're going to live with him eternally. There's no doubt about that. But the promise of eternal life, and I've said this in previous programs, the promise of eternal life does not start when I die. The promise of eternal life, if you've been with us for the past couple of weeks, the promise of life began before the world was created. So the promise of eternal life is in effect when? Now. Right now. Life is what God has given us now. Not partial life, whole life. So instead of looking for whole life or wholeness in all the wrong places, if you will, instead of looking for wholeness in careers, looking for wholeness in personal relationships, looking for wholeness in personal accomplishments, we should look for wholeness in God. God is He is the one that can make us whole, complete, completely filled in. You've seen the circle, fill in this dot, and when you're filling out a form and it says if you select this particular category, you have to fill in that dot. Fill it in completely. That's what God does. He fills our life in completely with his plan, his purpose. So much so, there's no room for anything else. Now, just like the secular carnal inheritance, once God's inheritance of life has been engaged, you can't come back later to add something to it or to take away anything from it. All right? God's promise in giving us life does not need our help or our assistance. He doesn't need us to come and add anything to it. When God fills in that little circle, he fills in that little open space, he completely fills it in. No room for anything else. We don't want or need the world to add something to what God is doing. We don't need the world to try to improve on what God has planned for my life. And trust me, the world cannot take away. It cannot prevent what God desires to perform in my life. You can't allow the world to make you believe that they can steal the life that God has intended for you. Our real challenge is not allowing God's purpose, God's plan for our life to be fulfilled. Not allowing God to fill in that circle, that emptiness, that void, that openness in our life. So the teaching point, our inheritance, it is what God has set aside for us in life, what we require, the provision, the practical, everyday necessity to walk in the inspired fullness of life. God gives us all things, the whole of life,